Good afternoon, good evening. Simbachikanza posted the following. Tendai BT is a regime agent, publicly sponsoring Mnangagwa's hold on power, and he's already been released. I think people should know by now. Now, this is not the first time, nor is Simba the first person to say the opposition leaders in Zimbabwe are corrupt, incompetent, and conniving with the ZANU-PF dictatorship. Without any doubt, the biggest accusation that the MDC leaders, CCC leaders, have been accused of is their failure to implement even one token reform during the GNU of 2008 to 2013, and thereafter participating in flawed elections, knowing fully well that the process is flawed, and that participating will only give ZANU-PF legitimacy. That is serious betrayal of the people's trust. The reality is none of these opposition leaders have so far come out and addressed them in an honest way to restore confidence in their performance. So this statement by Simbachikanza, although some people have reacted to it with the usual knee-jerk reaction of condemning it, the truth of the matter is this is not the first time, nor is BT the first one to be accused of being a ZANU-PF agent. This is something that, as a nation, we really have to sit down and address. Welcome to the program, Ben.
Good day to you and good day to our viewers. Thank you for joining us. You know, we cannot continue hiding behind the finger. I mean, let's look at the facts. What has the opposition, particularly MDC, CCC, done in the past 26 years? Let us measure their achievement. There's nothing to talk about. All they have been doing is participating in rigged elections, winning seats in urban areas, going into parliament, getting perks out of that, and doing the process all over again. In between the scene of ZANU-PF rigging elections, the need of reforms, but they are always, and their main agenda has been to participate in rigged elections for their own, well-being. We cannot hide facts because we love people or they seem to be our only hope. We wouldn't have been even in this mess had they had done their job, and particularly during the GNU. They didn't do anything for the Zimbabweans. They did everything for themselves. And we cannot lie or justify that fact. And I think it is time where Zimbabweans out there call a spade a spade. These will not get us anywhere. They pretend to be on our side, but they're not.
Well, the video I'm going to play, I won't play all of it, I'll just play part of it, showed some of the blatant vote rigging that took place in 2013. And Tendai BT was the one who recorded it, because this happened in the constituency, Mount Pleasant, where he was the MDC candidate.
How can we cheat like this?
There are some buses which are here.
Two buses there. One street in Mount Pleasant. One street. I think we shouldn't allow this. Officer, we don't want to be accused of disruptiveness, but this is not on. We can't allow this. Ask anyone which clean show van. Ask this one, where does it stay in Mount Pleasant?
I will pay to my seniors at Mount Pleasant.
All right, I'm doing that. But you can see it's read about it.
But we will take note of it.
We
but
can't.
you don't take note of them. Stop by one.
That's why I
Stop.
Stop
by one process.
we'll stop around. Because this is not on that we can have this blatant cheating. From the raw areas, yes. Yeah. Taken to think. And then post me as officers. They've been passed by those buses, as you can see. As one of them, a single address in Mount Pleasant. Just one. You need a bus to come from Morris Depot. Morris Depot is just across the road. You need a bus to come from Morris Depot.
But their sleeves are retained.
So why were they carrying with buses?
Just take a sample of 5. Go to the voters room with the sleeves. You find them not in the voters room.
They're not in the voters room.
But their sleeves are written on present, so we don't have the powers to.
When you are recruited, you have to shave your head into the police.
So you think they are in the police in a
They're
role?
not genuine.
Not genuine.
Those fake ones that like reacting for special food.
Right.
The militias.
You can see from the cards that
It's fresh cards and so on.
they are just taken from wherever and then they just shove in.
That one, she's about 14 years old.
What is really amazing about that video clip is that when Tendai BT felt that he was going to lose those elections, he was up in arms. But when the results came and he realized he had won the elections, he dropped the whole issue altogether. What we saw in that whole video clip is blatant vote rigging. This was in Mount Pleasant, one of the leafy suburbs in Zimbabwe. If this could go on in the urban centers, one can only imagine what happens in the rural areas. The cheating there is even worse. And characteristically, the opposition leaders, people like Tendai BT, they've wanted to stand in the urban constituencies where they knew they had a better chance. They did not want to stand in the rural areas because they knew the cheating there is worse. So this is a situation where you are saying these opposition leaders know that there is blatant vote rigging. But as long as they secure for themselves the few seats, they're prepared to tolerate it. This is totally unacceptable. Are we saying here only the urban voters have the right to a meaningful vote, and those in the rural areas are condemned? This comes back to what we're talking about. Our opposition leaders only interested in having a share of the spoils of power and are not really committed to implementing the democratic changes to ensure that Zimbabwean elections are free, fair, and credible. The party's name, the Movement for Democratic Change, imply that they are committed to democratic change, not only in the urban centers, but in the whole country. But here is the case where we have seen this happen again and again. As long as some of these few opposition leaders win their seats, they don't care what happens to the rest. Tendai Biti did not take this up to challenge what was happening, to make sure that it doesn't happen anywhere else. When he realized he had won his seat, he was quite content with that. This is the problem with our opposition leaders. And we have seen this happening again and again and again, giving credibility to what Simba is saying, that some of these opposition leaders are in ZANU-PF's pockets. As long as they get a share of the spoils of power, they're happy with it.
I think this just shows us that there is a lack of integrity within the opposition itself. If you could observe wrongdoing and then talk about it as it is going on, and then keep quiet just because you have benefited at the end of the day, it's now water under the bridge. I've won anyway. I think we have a serious problem, because not only did the violation happen on this, to him himself, but it happened to a lot of, because a lot of people vote for different positions, councillors, MPs, president. And if these guys could actually do it, I'm pretty sure they must have voted for all, 3 positions, thereby diluting the will of the people. That election alone, if things like this happen, can no longer be deemed free, fair, and credible. And how we could just keep quiet, yet we are supposed to be, the guardian of the people that, trust the opposition to look after their well-being. I find this, and many other things very appalling, to say, as long as I benefit, it really doesn't matter. And then my question is, are these the same people or the type of people that we want to hand over the keys of the country? We are looking at another ZANU-PF within the opposition ranks itself. And a lot of people have not yet realized or grasped that concept, to say the opposition is equally just as corrupt as ZANU-PF.
Well, one of the things that many people have asked is why the opposition failed to implement even one token reform during the GNU. Why the opposition has failed to make a firm stand whenever ZANU-PF has blatantly rigged the elections. This must be contrasted with the recent commitment by the likes of Tendai Biti to fighting constitutional amendment number 3. Here he is talking about his commitment to make sure that constitutional amendment number 3 does not sail through.
That is to say, 2/3 in the National Assembly and 2/3 in the Senate. It must then go to a referendum, because it is a bill altering term limits in the country. The referendum is a simple process, Baba. The referendum simply asks whether you are saying yes or no. Because we are going to campaign and live in the mountains to get that no vote. There's a second problem. The Constitution then says, when you change this Constitution and you remove the term limits, it doesn't benefit the incumbent.
It benefits the next.
It benefits the next. But you can change that provision.
Same process.
Yeah, we call it the Abdoulaye Wade provision. Because President Abdoulaye Wade amended the constitution for a third time, and Senegalese said it can't benefit you, and he lost at that stage. And that's why President Sall came in, and as fat as Yazid, as you know, President Macky Sall also tried to change the constitution to benefit him. Yet he came through a process of rejecting a third term agenda. Right. That's why you can't trust people. But anyway, to come back to the legal process, another referendum is required now to change the constitutional provision that says you can't benefit. That's when we will see Trababalla's true colors, because all along you'll be saying, I don't want Vandovaruda. Now when he says, now the Akuda, the constitution has to go to a referendum for the second time. Baba, pakaipa. Tusangana makomu, tusangana kwa Chendabwe, tusangana ku Lotito, tusangana ku Eskodini, tusangana ku Binga, tusangana ku Cholocho. He can't win those referendums. He cannot win those referendums.
Okay.
So to put it very crudely, the idea of a third term agenda is fraught with such legal landmines that you would have to be so ambitious, so insane, so drunk, or both to ever think that it can actually carry out and see the light of the day.
Well, the truth here is, number one, why is it that Tendai Biti is now prepared to live in the mountains, Ucholocho, Kwachendambuya, you name it, to fight to stop the constitutional amendment number 3? And yet, the same individual and his colleagues failed to implement even one token reform during the GNU, when they had the support of SADC. They had the backing of the global political agreement. They had the majority in parliament and in the cabinet. They failed to implement even one token reform. And now all of a sudden, he wants to tell us he is so powerful that he can stop this amendment going through. The second point is, we know that ZANU-PF is a ruthless party. The party has just rigged the 2023 elections, and before it, 2018, and so on and so forth. Rigging the elections is a much more difficult, challenging process than rigging a referendum. You don't need a verified voters roll for the referendum. And in this case here, ZANU-PF has gone even one step further. It's now proposing that you don't need even the referendum itself. And yet Tendai BT has been trying to assure the people that he will stop it. The third point, which the people of Zimbabwe must realize, is that we are caught up in the same cycle of participating in a process we know is flawed, we know ZANU-PF can rig, and we know in this case that it is rigging them. But by insisting on participating, we are running the risk of giving the process legitimacy, just as we did in the 2023 elections, 2018 elections. We never seem to learn. The opposition have taken advantage of this constitutional amendment to revive their own failed political careers and are now championing what could well be a process in which ZANU-PF would get the amendment enacted, and Zimbabweans have been called to participate, and thus giving the process legitimacy. This is not rocket science. This has happened before. 2023 is only 3 years ago. Remember what Chamisa was saying about 2023, that he was going to form that government. It was God's plan, and God's plan does not fail. And he convinced 2 million to participate, with the tragic results that participation gave the regime legitimacy. And hence we are in this mess.
It is unfortunate that, for quite some time now, a lot of people out there, when they see the likes of Tendai BT, Chamisa, and all these other opposition characters stand up and say what the people want to hear, manipulate the people basically. People clap hands and say, these guys are true leaders. Yet we are not supposed to have been in this position had they done their job. It's really sad that we have not taken them to account for their for all the disappointment and that they've caused us. They are the source of our problem, not just ZANU-PF. The MDC CCC has been working in cahoots with ZANU-PF to keep the status quo. Again, I remind people that SADC pushed for reforms. They kept on knocking at Morgan Changirai and Tendai BT's, door, huffing and puffing. Implement reforms. It was they, Morgan Changirai, who went and reported SADC to Mugabe to say that they are worrying me. So we are in this position not because of ZANU-PF alone, but because of the likes of Tendai Biti, Chamisa's failure to implement even one token reform up to today. And again, I ask each and every one that wishes to defend them, show me the evidence of anything productive that they have done. Anything for the past 26 years that has moved the country forward, that has created us or moved us closer to democracy. There is nothing. You are being sold a lie. You are being manipulated every single time. ZANU-PF keeps on doing all these things to keep the same likes relevant and to keep us busy without doing anything about reforms. And will continue doing the same until Madongamera Nyanga. Thank you.
Mnangagwa himself has boasted that Zimbabwe's opposition is, to say the least, a toothless dog.
I'm happy kuti in Zimbabwe hakuna friction between the ruling party and the opposition party. But it is critically important that we must have an opposition which must check on the ruling party. So members of the opposition, make sure you deal with the ruling party. Don't make them sit. Make sure you make them busy, the opposition. Musamboregera. Nyanga vakadini rambai muchingo criticize kuseni masikati criticize. That way, munovabatsira kuti varambe vari mupower. Nokuti vanenge vachidiscover mistakes avo vachicorrect. Ivi muchingorova, nokuti mukasivarova vanorelaxa, mozotora power. So my advice for opposition, please be serious in opposition. Nokuti murambe muri mu opposition.
The tragedy is the people of Zimbabwe have been slow in realizing that our opposition leaders have been running with the povo hair and hunting with the ZANU-PF hounds. That is the tragedy. There is an interesting tale of somebody who was saying to the king, I would want to spend a day and have the experience of what it means to be a king, even for one day. And the story goes that the king allowed him to sit on the throne and have the same feasts that he enjoyed. But when he was sitting there, the king brought to his attention the sword that was hanging over his head. The sword of Damocles. The moral of the story is Damocles, as much as he was king for the day, he didn't enjoy it because he was worried about the sword hanging over his head, suspended on the horse's hair. Our opposition leaders have had this Damocles sword hanging over their heads for their failure to implement even one token reform in 26 years, including the 5 years in the GNU. For their participation in flawed elections, knowing fully well that participating will only give ZANU-PF legitimacy. And yet they have never come forward to have this cleared in all these years. It speaks volumes. Why would they not clear their head if their situation, if they knew they were innocent? So Simba Chikanza is right. Our opposition leaders, many of them, are but agents of the ZANU-PF regime. They are in ZANU-PF's deep pockets. And Mnangagwa himself, when he was boasting that the opposition are just helping ZANU-PF to stay in power, it wasn't an empty boast. He was only speaking the truth. As regards the present situation of this constitutional amendment, number 3, the opposition have taken that call with a passion. But I would like to remind the people of Zimbabwe once again that they knew ZANU-PF was rigging this process. And they also knew that by getting people to participate, they are only giving the process legitimacy. That is the tragedy. Because once it's implemented, the people have nothing they can do after that. You have given it legitimacy, and they are stuck with it. Please pay attention to what Simba Chikanza is saying, because this is not the first time we have heard of the opposition selling out. And we need to be vigilant. Think about it. Thank you very much. Have a good night.